We're rolling.
Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast.
The Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 80, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Koth.
And I'm Jack Haas.
And here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
Yeah, this week we have on the show Jason Hull, who is a bit of a disruptor in the property management world.
Right, he has a website called DoorGrow.com, and his whole business model is to help out property management companies and help them scale up and grow. And he really has distilled it down to a few key things that they need to do, and he helps with those. So great interview with Jason Hull. Check it out here.
Well, we're here with Jason Hull. He's with, I know of a couple websites, DoorGrow Live. I think you got a big event coming up here very soon, as well as DoorGrow seed sites, right? You do some websites and website development for project management?
A little bit, but our real focus is on consulting property management companies to help them grow.
Yeah, so you're kind of known as a disruptor in this marketplace, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys know that property management isn't like a really shining, glowing industry at the moment. You probably dealt with kissed a few frogs with property management companies trying to get them to manage a property or two, or you've heard some horror stories. And so our goal and vision at DoorGrow is to transform an industry. I believe it has massive potential. So just as real estate, it has grown to be a really large industry and business. Property management has a lot of potential there, which I'm happy to chat about.
Yeah, so let's start with some of that. How do you help some of these property managers?
Well, one of the typical problems that we see, in business and small businesses in general, is everybody's chasing this mythical unicorn of getting to be the top spot on Google. They just think if I could just have the top spot on Google, all of my problems would go away. And so that's my savior. SEO is my savior. I just need that. And so just by having that sort of belief, they fall prey to marketers that are selling them stuff that they really have no clue about, have no idea to verify whether it's even being done effectively or not. And it's a game that's really difficult to play. This game of standard marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, content marketing, social media marketing. And for an industry like property management, they've got some really big hurdles that they've got to leap over first. One being there's massive perception problem. But even before that, there's a massive awareness problem. So if you go on Google Trends, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but I'm kind of a nerd. So if you go to Google Trends, and you can just Google Trends and look for it, you can put in a search term and you can see basically how much search volume there's been over the years. So you can set the range to the length of history that it started at, which was about 2004. And you can specify just the United States if you're focusing on the US, and you can put in property management, and you can see search volume really hasn't increased since 2004 for property management. Yet most property management companies, the marketers in that industry are, maybe you'd call them smart marketers because they're selling what everyone's asking for. And what everybody asks for is SEO, pay-per-click. It's all search engine marketing related. And social media and content marketing are kind of the new SEO, and everybody's focused on that stuff because they think, well, I just need the top spot on Google. That's how you grow a business. But there's things better than having the top spot on Google.
So can you go through some of those other things?
Yeah. So most small businesses are chasing this. And the challenge is, even if you shell out a ton of money and throw a bunch of money at a marketer, the myth is that a marketer is going to hand you back deals, right? You give them money, and then out of the other side of this magical machine, they hand you contracts, right? And that's not really how it works. The best most marketers can really ever give you is a cold lead. And cold leads are the worst. They're the most price sensitive. They don't trust you. They don't know you yet. They don't like you. And most small businesses, if you ask them where you actually acquiring and getting customers, they'll usually tell you word of mouth, referrals, warm leads. And so, and then if you ask them, what's your close rate? on, in your sales process, they're like, oh, we're amazing. We're badasses. It's like 90%, right?
Right.
And that's generally always going to be true with warm leads, unless you have really bad breath or there's a major problem, right? So, but as soon as you give them cold leads, they're like, oh my gosh, these are the worst. These are terrible. And the answer is yes, that's what cold leads are. That's the nature of cold leads. They're just different. And that would be okay if you knew that they were cold leads and you could accept that game. But the challenge for most small businesses is that when they're trying to grow, focusing on cold leads becomes really time intensive. So in property management, the feedback I get is that for their small businesses, targeting a local market, which I'm sure a lot of your audience, if they're in real estate or doing something similar, they run into a similar challenge. Targeting that local market, the challenge is that people, if leads come in and they're really cold, you have to spend a lot of time following up with them, nurturing the relationship to go take them from cold, don't know you, trust you, or like you, to liking you, trusting you, and wanting to do business with you. And that nurture process takes a lot of time, and there's ways to collapse time on that. But that's the nature of cold leads. And with cold leads, you have to remember these are people that have already exhausted all the other channels, or they don't have other channels. So word of mouth has already been tried. They probably posted on Facebook. They've reached out to friends. Maybe they're new to the area. They don't know somebody. So they're kind of the bottom of the barrel. All the good business has already been caught earlier in the sales cycle by word of mouth and referral type of business. Mm-hmm. So what I like to teach clients is how to get out in front and start capturing that business earlier in the sales cycle. So they're getting referral level business or warm lead business before it gets to the point where all the good ones are snatched up. And then you have the crappiest, worst leads that are left over that are the scraps that fall off my client's table. Those are the ones searching on Google. That's what's left.
So question, and just to clarify,
yeah.
So when you're talking generating leads, are you saying for property management companies, is a lead considered a property owner that needs property management services, or is a lead a tenant that's looking for a property to live in?
That's a great question. It really depends on the type of management company. The companies I like to help are businesses that are wanting to get more clients, owners, so that they can manage their properties. Most of them don't have trouble finding tenants. That's not hard for them. So the businesses that say they call tenants and call those leads, they're usually more the multifamily side of things, or maybe they're in commercial or this sort of thing. And they might view tenants as leads. I don't really focus on those because that's not exciting for me to help them with that problem or challenge. I like helping them get more clients, which is something I've been able to focus on in my own business. So there's some congruency and integrity there. So
gotcha.
So they're looking for more owners. They're looking for people that need their properties managed. The biggest challenge, though, in an industry like property management that's really in its infancy is that property management, there's this huge awareness problem. So most people don't even know what a property manager is or what they do. Mm-hmm. It's not like realtor. You say, what's a realtor? Everybody would go, oh, well, it's a person that helps you buy or sell property and they manage this process. And you say, what's a property manager? Well, I guess they manage a property. Like, I don't really know. So there's a huge awareness problem in the US. And then after that awareness problem takes a hit, which is, you could imagine it's maybe cutting out 50% of the potential available market share, right? After that, there's another major hit, and that's the perception problem. And it's a well-deserved perception problem. There's a lot of really bad property management companies.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, how do you overcome, because even in our local market, it's seen as a very adversarial relationship, property management to tenants. So they do have kind of a big bad wolf vibe, and even on Facebook, you'll see a lot of negative reviews. Like having a property management company with a 5-star rating is very rare, just because of that inherent adversarial position between them and the tenants. So how do you overcome that?
Here's why that happens. So if you have a business that is not healthy, which means it's not growing and getting on new clients, the last thing on their list is to provide great customer service. They want to, but they can't. If you're struggling in any business, if you're struggling as a business owner to just generate business and get money in the door, customer service is not going to be great. And that's a challenge that exists in the industry. A lot of them are really struggling to grow. So we help solve that challenge so that they can grow. And then they're providing really good customer service. And part of it is just they don't have a feedback system in place that allows them to get good reviews or capture those upset tenants or frustrated people before they go to DEFCON 5 and go nuclear and decide they want to crush their business on Yelp.
Right.
And most of those people don't want to go to that level. They just want to be heard. They want to be taken care of. They want solutions to their problems. Sometimes they just want to be able to get past the gatekeeper at the front line of the business and talk to the business owner. And so we help them implement systems for that so that they actually can win at online reviews. I mean, That's one thing that's better than having the top spot on Google is having the best reviewed company on multiple channels.
Oh yeah, no question. Another
warm leads.
Right. Yeah. And another hurdle I'm sure you encounter is do-it-yourself owners, the mom and pop landlords that think that they can save money by not having property management in place. Do you work to try to convert those and see the light and realize that property management is the only way to really scale their business?
Yeah. So let me paint a picture that's really interesting. So in Australia, 80% of single family home rentals are professionally managed by a property management company. That's crazy high. In the US, maybe in some markets, 30%.
Oh, wow.
Most people are self-managing in the US. Now,
70%
there's a few reasons for that.
Wow, that's high.
There's a few reasons. So it's the opposite of Australia. So there's a few reasons for that. One, Australia property management's a much more seasoned business. It's been around and it's been able to mature and develop longer, whereas property management in the US really is in its infancy. And some are doing it really well and some are not. And in Australia, there's a lot of legislation that's coming in the US. Like right now in the US, to start a property management business in some states, you don't even have to have anything. You don't have to have even a license of any sort.
No barrier to entry there.
And in most states, you have to have a broker's license, which is completely irrelevant largely to property management. Right. It's very relevant to real estate, and they have to learn lots of real estate law, but property management is not really relevant to that. And so the licensing is off. And then the other challenges with property management companies, they because that barrier to entry is low, a lot of them really aren't there. There's a lot that aren't educated. They aren't doing a great job. And when they're not able to grow, they're really struggling and they're damaging the reputation of the industry. And so the number one source of complaints at any board of realtors is not real estate related. It's actually related to property management. It's mismanagement of trust funds or trust accounts. It's like fair housing issues, all these kind of things. And it's always connected to property management. So among the real estate community, property management is considered the ugly like cousin of real estate. Mm-hmm. It's like this nasty, ugly thing because that's all they hear about.
The landlord stole my deposit. Use it as additional profit. That kind of, that's a big bone of contention locally. We see quite a bit.
And you get a lot of, and so there are some property managers that think their whole job is to like advocate only for the client and damage, the tenant. Good property managers don't see it that way though. They see that expectations need to be managed from both sides. Right. They don't want to be a crap shield for a slumlord. Mm-hmm. And so they set an expectation. They won't take on every client. They won't. And so these are some of the things that we coach them through mentally so that they can build a business that they love. One of the things that we teach is property managers to escape property management hell that a lot of them are trapped in is what we call the cycle of suck. And this may apply to any business, but the cycle of suck is basically if you take on crappy owners, that are micromanaging you, that think they know better, that are forcing you to use certain vendors, they're trying to control the process and instead of feel confident and trust an expert, they become a crappy owner. And a lot of them have really weird expectations. Like we never want to replace an AC unit, even in the middle of summer ever, right? These kind of things. I don't care if it's winter. We'll wait for the insurance stuff to kick in, and then a month later they can get their heater back on. Once that stuff applies.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're just resisting spending any maintenance money at all.
Right. So good managers are able to manage clear expectations and they make a better experience. Good property management, because there are hundreds of thousands of rental properties in the US and beyond. Good property management, I really do believe, could change the world. It could have a massive ripple effect impacting tens, hundreds of thousands of homeowners and their families and tenants and their families. And it can have a significant impact. And that's one of the things I get excited about, even though I don't personally do property management. I just teach them how to win. So I just get to work with them.
So how did you get into property management at all? You come kind of from a web design, marketing type background, and then that you just saw an underserved niche. Is that how you arrived at there, or did something else push you into design, or helping property managers expand?
Yeah. So nobody just normally just chooses into property management in any capacity. There's always some story, right? So it's interesting. So for me, my brother bought into a property management franchise. He had no doors under management, no units. And they gave him a website that wasn't very good. And he asked for my help, and I was doing websites, and I said, well, why don't you make these changes? He made some changes, and he's like, I still don't like it. And I gave him some tips, like put faces on it, have some bullet points to make the copy a little easier to digest, and just so it can convert more. And then he was like, can you just build me a site? So I sat down with him. We mapped out what his real needs were. At the time, and this was about a decade ago, most property management websites were focused on tenants. Mm-hmm. They were like, pay rent was the big call to action on the page. Mm-hmm. And their goal was, they didn't have problems getting tenants. Their goal wasn't just fulfilling the operational side of things and making tenants, that situation work. It was to get clients, but their websites weren't geared towards that. And to me, that was very obvious as a marketer. Let's focus on who your real target audience is. And so we were kind of the first to really start building websites that weren't built to help them run a property management company. They were built to help them grow a property management company. And since we did his site, we started getting all of the top franchisees in that largest franchise at the time as clients. And then because we had all those great backlinks, we actually had really great rankings on Google. And it was really at the time it was me competing against some big Goliaths in the industry. And fast forward to now, we eventually shifted to just focusing on property management, and changed our name to DoorGrow and started working with property management companies to help them grow their businesses. And we shifted away from website design. We still are involved in that, but we've shifted a lot more into consulting to help property management companies grow.
So explain how it works. Let's say a property management firm is interested in utilizing your services. Is it kind of like a subscription basis? You pay like so much a month, like kind of a fee for you to help out, or are they purchasing like a product from you that actually like replaces their existing site, or what's the methods that a property management firm would actually utilize you?
So the biggest question we get, because we don't focus on SEO and pay-per-click and content marketing, social media marketing, is like, what do you guys do? We get that question at conferences a lot. We get that question asked in a lot of different places because we're a little crazy, because selling something that people are not asking for is a lot harder. Mm-hmm. So the way I describe it, but to me, it's a lot more ethical, because it's what actually works. And so we have the challenge and the opportunity to say, this is what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing this, and they all are getting the same mediocre results. This is what's working. And this is what we would recommend you do. So basically what we do in a nutshell is we take property management companies that are struggling, and we rehab those businesses the same way you would rehab a property to turn it over and make it into a profitable business or machine to generate revenue, right? So we do the same thing with businesses. So that's everything from cleaning up their branding to helping them figure out how to game and play the game of online reviews, and to create a referral system in the business to get more online reviews. We focus on the website and making sure that they have a site that converts really well. And we focus on educating them on how to build a sales process that is systemizable. Because one of the challenges in the property management industry is a lot of them are the flunkies of real estate. They're people that really weren't the high driven, salesy type of people and weren't really comfortable selling and dealing with the feast and famine of real estate and being real estate agents. And they wanted a residual income business model. Property management is the ultimate high trust, business for residual real estate income. Every single property generates revenue every single month, right? And so it's a very systemizable business, but it's also a business that can be death by 1,000 cuts. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of opportunities for failure. And so what we did is I sat down and looked at, all right, what are the biggest leaks and constraints that I see inside these companies relevant to their sales pipeline of acquiring clients, and how can we shore up these leaks? Because if we can eliminate these major leaks, then business will flow through and they will get those contracts out the other side.
Have you found that what market they're in varies, your sales process or your procedures at all, or is this kind of applicable to almost any market? Or is there a market of a certain size you kind of people would benefit the most from, or does it work anywhere?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So what we focus on is so central to any business. I could probably apply it to any service or local based business, period, right? But we focus on the property management businesses. And so things like branding, if the branding is misaligned, so for example, in property management, a lot of them are branded as such and such realty or real estate. Mm-hmm. And by having branding like that, that could potentially be costing them just out of the gate 50% of the deals and leads they could or should be getting. Because usually if somebody is finally aware of property management, they want a specialist, somebody that specializes in that, not somebody that's going to dabble and do property management on the side while they're trying to hustle and close real estate deals. Mm-hmm. So that's just one example. And so if we can shore up like all the leaks that potentially could exist branding wise, the leaks that could exist in, maybe their website, the leaks that exist in generating, traffic to that website through online reviews or referrals, and then helping them close more deals. So usually they're not closing a lot of deals. They don't have a very specific systemized process for sales. So we'll increase or double their close rate just there. So each of these stages in the sales pipeline, they could potentially be missing out on half the amount or have an attrition of about 50%, right? So by the end, I imagine it like, if you imagine it like a hose, this pipeline, a lot of people go and turn on the spigot full blast, and the spigot is marketing. They're like, let's funnel a ton of water. We're going to shell out a bunch of money through this thing. And out the other end, we're going to get contracts and grow this little plant that's our business. What ends up happening in reality is this hose has a bunch of massive leaks that they can't see. And so they can turn that on full blast. All it means is they're wasting and spending a lot more money. Even if they're getting leads and deals, usually they're cold through those marketing efforts. And the typical sales cycle for a cold lead for property manager is probably 3 to 6 hours to follow up. And the close rate's probably about 1 out of 10 on a cold lead. So that means they could be spending a full-time hour job to work 10 leads in a week, like a 40-hour roughly week, doing all the follow-up and nurture and everything they need to do. And they might get one deal. If they're a absolute badass at sales, they maybe will get a 30% close rate on those cold leads, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But warm leads take maybe a third the amount of time. Some people tell me 15 minutes to an hour instead. Total sales cycle time to work with these people, follow up with them, connect with them to close the deal because the trust level is so high, and they're able to close the deals far faster. And so they're spending way less time on follow-up, way less time on nurture. They're acquiring more clients. And so even if they got 5 warm leads, they could probably close 3 of those, or probably more. Most of them say their close rate on warm leads is at least 70%, even if they're terrible at selling. Probably 80 or 90% or higher.
So their overall experience is much better and the time spent is much less.
Right. And so it's much more scalable, especially for a solopreneur or a smaller business owner. Most property managers they get to about 50 or 60 units as a solopreneur, and then they're trapped. Mm-hmm. They've taken on too many clients at too low of a price point. They have too many properties that are too difficult to manage that they've allowed into their portfolio. Mm-hmm. So they've gotten into that cycle of suck, as I call it. They took on bad owners. They took on bad properties. And then they have bad tenants by default, because even if the tenants has all the screening in the world and A-grade credit, they're going to be a bad tenant for the property manager if the property is bad or the owner is pushing back on everything. And then if the owner's not happy and the property is difficult and the tenant is frustrating, their operational costs are going to be 10 times that of somebody managing good owners and good properties. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is, guess what kind of reviews they get online and what the marketplace is saying about their business if the owners and tenants are unhappy, that they're terrible. So they get bad reviews. And then guess what type of owners they attract into their business? More crappy owners. So this is the cycle of suck that people get caught up in their business. And this really could be applied to any business or industry. If you don't value yourself enough to take on the clients you really want to work with and you really can help, you're hurting your ability to grow in the future.
Yeah, I can see this. I'm already, thinking like cleaning services, anybody that's a service-based type industry. These principles apply. Yeah, very, very, very smart.
And so all the stuff that I focus on kind of as the mad scientist in my business to innovate is, what are the biggest leaks that we can shore up that if we eliminate those biggest constraints, it's going to give them the greatest amount of momentum. I find entrepreneurs are amazing people to work with. I love working with them. So I built my business so that I could just work with them all the time, right? And what's cool about entrepreneurs is we don't need motivational speakers. Like we don't need people to tell us to get up in the morning and make things work or do stuff. We feel alive when we're in a state of momentum. Where when we get stuck though, that's our version of the rest of the world's version of being unhappy or sad or depressed. But for entrepreneurs, we're not happy or sad. We are in momentum or we are in overwhelm and stuck. And getting stuck or being in overwhelm is because we don't have a clear outcome or we don't know how to get to that outcome. And so we just help our clients see, here's how you get to this outcome. And it makes so much sense. It's so simple. But there's all these things that we're going to help them do to get through that, consult them and get them through that, that they pay us a lot of money to do that because they get a huge return on their investment. So we've got clients in as little as 6 months. We've had one client get 300 doors when he was stuck at 50 or 60 units for 3 years.
Right. Wow.
That's huge growth. And there's some pain that's created by that kind of growth. But we can get them to that next level after that as well. We have a lot of clients that will add on 100 doors in a year, even 200 doors in a year or two, and that's huge growth. And most property management companies right now are actually losing doors due to owners selling off their properties while our clients are growing.
Right.
Sure. Well, in our situation, we find that, and you probably hear this from other investors, if you get the right property manager, they're either going to help you make money or they're going to help you lose money.
Absolutely.
How do you train or coach your customers to communicate how they're going to make money for the real estate agent, realtor, or the investor?
Well, I think the thing to realize is that property managers they're entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs are naturally contribution focused. Like they want to be in a state of momentum and benefiting other people, and they want to solve a real problem. I mean, businesses only exist if they solve a real problem, right? And so that's why businesses exist. And so entrepreneurs are the weird people that see a problem and say, I can make money and I can solve this problem and I can benefit people. And so I believe that most business owners want to benefit people. They want to have a business that's healthy. But when they end up in that cycle of suck, or they're in hell, so to speak, they're not able to deliver. They're not able to do fulfillment because the earlier stage in the business, lead gen and sales and these kind of things, isn't working. And so they're starving. And so the challenge is they can't focus on really good delivery or fulfillment or customer service if they're starving. They can't even afford to hire their initial first team member if they can't break past 50 or 60 units.
Right.
Especially if they took them on at too low of a price point, trying to undercut their competition. They're caught in the cycle of suck. So each property is 10 times the amount of overhead and work as a good property. And they're basically in hell. They're trapped. So we actually will consult clients to fire certain doors in order to be able to grow. It's the only way out sometimes.
Oh yeah, that makes complete sense.
So going back to your question, like if we want them most of them want to do a good job, and they want to help their clients and help them make these really good investments. And they look at it through the filter of it being an investment. They want to be able to do that. The challenge is only the property management companies that are healthy and that are growing well and that are doing well, only they are really able to do that. They all want to. And in theory, they all believe they can, but they all have a limited capacity when it comes to time and attention.
Awesome. Well, we're kind of running up against time here, but if other property management companies wanted to seek out your services, tell people what's the best way to reach out and get in contact with you.
Yeah, so I think what's relevant to your listeners, if people are looking for a really good property management company, I feel really confident saying the best property management companies out there are the ones that are working with us. And so if they're looking for a property management company, they can hit us up at DoorGrow and say, hey, I am looking for a property manager that you guys say would be good in my market. There's telltale signs. You can look at their online reviews and stuff like that, but sometimes that's not the full picture. You can always reach out to us for a referral. And so you can reach us at DoorGrow.com. And if property managers are actually listening to your show and they recognize they're caught in that cycle of suck and they're frustrated about their business and they really do want to make a difference, and they're not a slumlord, they don't want to be a shield for a slumlord, and they're not that type of person, we want to work with those people and help them succeed. And so they can reach out to us at DoorGrow.com. And you had mentioned our conference we have coming up in November, which is going to be focused on entrepreneurism largely in the industry. And you can check that out at doorgrowlive.com.
Awesome.
So we can't thank you enough for joining us this week. And we will be in touch in the very
Absolutely.
future. Thank you again, Jason. It was great chatting with you.
Hey, I appreciate both of you having me on your show, and appreciate what you're doing out there for real estate investors.
Awesome. All right, that was our interview with Jason Hull. Check out his website, DoorGrow.com, if you have a property management business and would like to scale that up and make sure you're maximizing your potential.
If you like what you hear, we really would appreciate some feedback by shooting us an email at info@reiRookies.com.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at REI Rookies. Head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other rookie investors out there find the show.
And remember, get off the bench
and get into the game. We'll see you next time.